Ayun.
May I request everyone to please put their microphones on mute mode because we will now
Beth,
begin.
tama po ba? Nung dun sa partner, gaano katagal usually yung hihintayin na
Thank you very much for your understanding. We will now begin. I just have to put you on mute. I'm sorry. Because we cannot begin with foreign sounds. Thank you. Oscar, where are you? I'll allow you to record. Couldn't see you. Okay. Sandali lang po mga kaibigan. Magandang umaga po mga kaibigan. Welcome to another edition of our Tapatan sa Aristocrat. This morning, we will talk about sensitive issues because what are we to do considering the pandemic that we're in? For the information of our friends in the audience and our members of the panel, the Department of Health reported 997,523 cases since the pandemic began last year. And yesterday, meron po tayong 8,162 bagong kaso. Mayroon pong sinasabing 20,509 na gumaling at merong 109 na namayapa. Ayon sa statistics, 1.68% of the total number succumbed to COVID-19. And then 90.6% recovered, while we have 7.7% as active cases. So we will begin our discussions today. We're happy to have with us Dr. Alan Landrito, an advocate for the use of Mctin, Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We also have with us Mr. Reynaldo Pacheco Jr., Chief Executive Officer of Cocolicious. And we're hoping that Dr. Benigno Agbayani, the Chair of Concerned Doctors and Citizens Philippines, will be able to join us today. We're also expecting representatives from the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Science and Technology to sit with us. We were told that Dr. Imelda Angeles Agdepa wouldn't be able to join us today due to conflict in her schedule. So let's start our discussions today. Let's have the opening statements of our good friends. Let's start with Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. John, I'm looking for you.
Oo.
Yes.
Oo. Yeah. Oo. Sige.
Sandali po, kaibigan.
So, sabi mo kay Vicky.
I'm sorry.
No.
We're having foreign sounds in our discussion today. You know, it will be very hard for me to control. I'm just requesting our friends to please put their microphones on mute. Okay, please. Now, can I have the opening statements of our good friend June Ortiz Luis of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry? Good morning, June.
Well, I understand our topic for today is really ivermectin. Is that right?
Yes, of course.
Well, I just would just like to say that I got involved in the advocacy of the usage of ivermectin because of a lot of experience from friends and relatives who have used it and found it really efficient and have cured them. And we have tried it for a while now, and we feel that it is worthwhile using them. And until now, it's a puzzle to me why government has not allowed its usage. No, everything that they do is parang there is a solution, but they find problems. They should be looking for solution, and we should be finding problems. It's the other way around. Every solution we propose, they find problem. So we cannot understand. Recently, I read in the papers that FDA was halted by Congress for patterning policies because of the grant that they got in regards to the vape and the nicotine, because they got a grant. Is it possible that they are trying to, that they have commitments also with the benefactors, which probably will be the pharmaceutical industries, who's going to lose money because of this? Or is that FDA itself, the OH itself, or personal benefits that they get? That is why everything is being done to withhold the ivermectin from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, let's hear from Dr. Alan Landrito. I understand he has some slides to show. I will allow you or your staff to present the slides. Yes, good morning and welcome.
Good morning to everyone, Mr. Acuna, and other people in the Tapatan side. Yeah,
Yes.
if I may show the slide, I've been having this slide. Maybe many people have already seen it. Just to give an overview on ivermectin.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you please make me co-host?
We only have one host, that's why. But I will allow you to present the slides. No, it's the only plan I have. That's why. Please go ahead. It says multiple participants can share simultaneously. Go ahead.
Okay, so our topic is about ivermectin and COVID-19. We've been through this pandemic for more than a year already, since the pandemic was declared in March 11, 2020. No? And that has proven so many things. It's proven that the human organism is already so fragile with a kind of a viral infection that we have, wherein 80% are recovering. I mean, some are even asymptomatic, but the rest are even dying from it. No? So let's look into how to deal with this pandemic. No? So as we can see, here is a plotting of the daily new cases worldwide. And now it's from March up to April, it's going up again. It's reaching a higher peak than there was in December and January. No? So we were thinking it will be just a simple curve that it goes up, then it will go down, then the pandemic will be over. But now it's turning out to be different. There's cases are again rising. No? We have heard of a new variant, the Indian variant, just 5 days ago. They had 250 new cases in India. So we're really puzzled about this pandemic. But the good news is, with regards to therapeutics, we have already an answer, and it's working. The ivermectin is working for any kind of variants there is. Next slide, please. As of this day, April 26th, now US is #1 still, and India is going up. Before India went you know, third already. Now it's become second again. Brazil third, and France up to Germany. All this from the 4th to the 10th highest incidence are European countries. Philippines, we are now number 26. We used to be number 31 just a week ago. Now we are 26. So it means we are hybridizing upsurges now. We have upsurges. We have 997 as mentioned already, and about 16,000 deaths already. And worldwide, we have 147 million with 2 million plus deaths. I'm placing here or adding here the figures in China and South Korea. If you can see, China has become number 95 already amongst 221 countries. So, and South Korea is already 86. China used to be number 1 and South Korea used to be number 2. But why I placed them there is to show that there is really something on the part of therapeutics. China, in China and South Korea, it seems that they have already contained the pandemic in their respective countries. No? And it's because they have, it's not because of vaccine, but they have what we call the therapeutics. China has chloroquine sulfate, the anti-malarial, and it was working good. Supposedly, China being the most populous country with 1.4 billion population, could have had exploded numbers, no? And knowing that the pandemic started from that country, and it has only 90,000 up to this time. If you compare that with 32 million on cases in the U.S., that's a big gap, no? That's a big difference. And South Korea with 118,000 cases, with only 1,813 deaths. No? South Korea is using hydroxychloroquine. And I also looked into what China is using for severe cases. They're using high-dose intravenous vitamin C. So there are a lot of things that can be done with therapeutics, not necessarily having to place all hopes on vaccines. No? I think we better place more hope on the therapeutics, and we can do just as China and South Korea are doing. Okay, next slide. Here's an early epidemiologic data that led to the use of ivermectin. They were expecting early during the pandemic that African countries will have very high rates because, you know, these are poor countries with poor water supply and poor nutrition, diba? And yet they have very low incidences or cases. And they looked into this on the map on the right upper corner. You will find 19 countries with a shaded green. You know? They were part of the African program for onchocerciasis control. This is the river blindness disease that WHO was trying to eradicate from 1995 to 2015. That program was launched and concluded in 2015 because it was already eradicated. The more than 100 years scourge in those countries where people are going blind, where the cause is onchocercia infection, was already eradicated. So they stopped the program in 2015, and yet the Africans were continually taking ivermectin because they were afraid that river blindness can go back. And so they were taking it, buying it from the pharmacy. It's very cheap in their countries. And so come 2020, they're still taking it. And even with the kind of dose that they're taking, 1 capsule every 6 months, the numbers were affected. Their COVID cases were very low. So it was established that there was this connection with their ivermectin intake. And soon enough, there is this institution in Australia, the Monash University. They did an in vitro, means in the laboratory.
Advocate ng ivermectin. Siya nagsimula si Dr. Alan Landrito.
Yes. They isolated the virus and put it in test tubes and introduced ivermectin. They were surprised in 48 hours. 99.8% of the viruses were inactivated. So they published this data, and then a lot of other doctors around the world used ivermectin. They tried using ivermectin. They really had good results, no, in managing their patients. And so they did, along with their application, they did trials. So are the list of the trials that were done, and some are still ongoing. Next slide, please. This is the ivermectin. This is the medicine that we're dealing with, and it's actually coming from a certain bacteria. I will relate the history later on. Okay. Let me start with the history. In 1975, Dr. Satoshi Omura of Japan did some experiments on soil samples. He was gathering different soil samples from different places in Japan on the purpose of discovering something that will be of help for humanity, in dealing with the diseases of humanity. And then he was able to extract in one of the petri disk of one of the culture that he has. He observed that this particular colony of bacteria is giving out, surrounding itself with a certain compound to protect itself from other colonies, from other bacterial colonies, from fungi, or even from parasites. So parang protective mechanism. So it is actually giving out, which later on they identified as ivermectin. He partnered with a certain Dr. William Campbell of the US, and they looked into what this ivermectin can do. So they discovered the different properties. Firstly, they discovered it's a very good antiparasitic medicine. And so in 1982, there were already products of ivermectin for humans, and also, of course, for the animals, on the use for parasites. In 1995, I mentioned already, because it was proving to be a very good antiparasitic agent, they launched it to eradicate river blindness disease in Africa, and it is sponsored by the WHO. In 2012, they also, even before 2012, they realized ivermectin is very good in different viruses, viral infections. And so in 2012, they intensified the research there, and they discovered it is ideal for dengue, for Zika, chikungunya, even flu, even HIV. In 2015, I mentioned already, the epoch was concluded because no one was going blind anymore. So they concluded on Coxsackia infestation is already eradicated. And because of that, Dr. Satoshi Omura and Dr. William Campbell were awarded the most prestigious award ever can be received by any person, the Nobel Prize. And it was in medicine and in the field of medicine and physiology. And the reason for which is because of the discovery and development of ivermectin. And so, as I was mentioning, 2020 came and the pandemic started, and it was recognized that ivermectin is really giving the solution to this pandemic. It's showing to be efficacious, and as we can see from 1995 to 2015, the safety profile of that medicine was proven. In fact, it is even unsurpassed by any other medicine in terms of safety. And in 2020, its efficacy on SARS-CoV-2 is being proved to be, now it's proving to be what will be the champion in this COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So the reason for this safety is because they have found out that ivermectin has a zero impact on human biochemistry. That's why even if one is hypertensive, one is diabetic, one has heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, or any other problems, even autoimmune disorders, ivermectin is not interfering with the disease process. In fact, when it comes to autoimmune disorders, it is even becoming beneficial for that. I'll show you later in another slide. So with the 3.7 billion doses, mostly given in Africa, also in Central America, where they also have the river blind disease, it's showing that it's really very safe. And it has been, for a very long time, approved by the FDA in the US. It's available in the US pharmacies, also in the Philippines, and other countries. So it's FDA approved as a medication for humans. And it is now recognized as one among the true wonder drugs. And has always been part of the WHO's model list of essential medicines as well as a Philippine drug formulary. So if a drug is in that list, it only says that that drug has passed measures of safety, efficacy, so that it can be given to populations. And being essential at that means humanity will really benefit having it. So that's why it is placed in that list of essential medicines. Next slide. So let me discuss for a while the properties of ivermectin. So it is an antiparasitic agent, a very good antiparasitic agent. Can cover filarial infections. In the Philippines, what we have is Wuchereria bancosti. This is the cause of elephantiasis. Onchocercia is found in Central America and in Africa. This is the river blindness parasite. And we have other ones. And we have gastrointestinal parasite. Most of the things in the intestines, the parasite in the intestines, such as the roundworms, the flatworm, the whipworm, the pinworm, all of those are really showing to be ivermectin is showing to be the best medicine for those parasites. Other parasitic infections may include scabies and even the external, it's called ectoparasites. The one you can see in the scalp and the skin is succumbing to the use for ivermectin. Okay, next slide. They've also found that, as I was mentioning, ivermectin is really a very good antiviral agent. Dengue, all strains 1, 2, 3, and 4, Zika, yellow fever, West Nile, Hendra, chikungunya, the rest. Even HIV type 1, ivermectin is a very potent antiviral for those viral infections. This is just a short list of RNA virus. There are also DNA viruses that can be inactivated by ivermectin. Next slide. It has been proven to be a very good immunomodulator. When you say immunomodulator, these are the medicines used for autoimmune disorders. Autoimmune disorders are one of the most difficult, lifelong ailments, such as rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, psoriasis. And we are getting reports of certain people having good response, who has psoriasis and having good response when they use ivermectin. Next slide. It was also found that ivermectin is a very good anti-cancer, although this area is yet to be explored. But they have already established one particular cancer. It's called the epithelial cell tumor of the ovary, and ivermectin can be used for that kind of cancer. And if you can see the many direction by which ivermectin can handle cancers, even in stem cell, in combination therapy, even in those cancer cell lines which have multi-drug resistance already, and how it gives about cancer cell death through apoptosis, autophagy, and pyroptosis. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Now, when I looked, I was one of the doctors who saw it early on when they brought out the data on ivermectin for COVID-19 way back May. I looked into the mechanisms of action of ivermectin, and I realized this will work for SARS-CoV-2. These are the mechanisms of action established in the other viral infections, and it's working also for SARS-CoV-2. And COVID-19, because 6 are virus-directed against SARS-CoV-2 virus, and among the 6, 3 are working against SARS-CoV-2, and 3 of the mechanisms of action is working against the host, host-directed effects on COVID-19 patients. So let's look into the first one. Ivermectin inhibits the spike protein. So if on the right side, you have a molecular model of the spike protein. Spike lang siya. And they found out on 4 areas of that spike that ivermectin is just attaching itself so strongly in that the spike cannot already serve its purpose of being the key to an open, to a lock door to open to a lock door so that the virus can enter. The lock door is what you call the ACE2 proteins. No? The ACE2 protein, these are the receptor proteins whereby the spike protein latches onto and then it will open. Just like a lock and key principle, it has to be the exact key to open the lock door. No? And it's turning out of 1,200 peptides, that spike from the SARS-CoV-2 virus is really exact for the ACE2 protein. That's why it can enter the host cells. And once it enters the host cell, then it can start replicating. Outside the host cell, it cannot replicate by itself. No? So this is very crucial. If it's from that stage, it's already inhibiting the spike protein, then the virus cannot enter the host cells. Therefore, there cannot be replication. That's why we are seeing a lot of people, they take ivermectin, next day they get swabbed because they are part of a contact tracing activities in their work. For example, in their work area, there's contact tracing. And most of these people, I would say about 99%, if they take ivermectin today, tomorrow they'll be negative in their swab test because they're not replicating the virus. They're not breathing it out. So nothing can be detected on the throat and the nasal cavities of this patient. Okay, next slide. If in any case the virus is able to enter the host cell, it will start replicating. But before it replicates, it will require the activity of a helicase enzyme for it to initiate the replication. But then even in this stage, another molecular modeling, you will find that 4 out of the 13 hydrophobic contacts in the helicase enzyme, ivermectin is attaching itself there, so rendering this helicase enzyme really ineffective in initiating the viral replication. Another, the virus can somehow, number 3, the virus can somehow enter the nucleus of the cell. Harold, can you open the next slide, please? Yeah, the virus can somehow enter the nucleus of the cell using a certain transport protein called importin alpha and beta 1. Alpha beta 1. So this is a dimer, means it is composed of 2, importin alpha and importin beta 1. And as you can see on the left side, ivermectin will detach importin alpha and beta 1, thereby it cannot bring in the SARS-CoV-2 virus inside the host cell, the nucleus. Whereas on the right side, if it's absent, you can see on the yellow button there or yellow dot, the SARS-CoV-2 can enter the host nucleus, the cell nucleus. This is very important because if ever the virus can enter the nucleus, then it can start controlling the whole immune response of that cell. And that will be catastrophic. No? So it has been found that ivermectin simply inhibit also that process of transporting it inside the host cell. So by that we can imagine how it helps in controlling immune responses. Next slide. Number 4, ivermectin inhibits the inflammatory mediators, and mostly all this comes from nuclear factor kappa B, and it's very mediator that ivermectin is inhibiting. Also, even the cytokines, such as the most common is interleukin 6. We have been seeing a lot of interleukin 6 in COVID-19. This is where the tocilizumab is acting on. Tocilizumab is an interleukin 6 inhibitor. So, but then ivermectin works just the same. It works against nuclear factor kappa B, against interleukin 6 and other interleukins, including tumor necrosis factor alpha. Thereby, when there is a proliferation of a lot of viruses, the immune cells will respond in a way of producing also proportionate inflammatory mediators. And if we have too much of this inflammatory mediator, then we will have the cytokine storm that leads to the what you call the SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, causing the death of the patients. So if this can be controlled, then we will avoid cytokine storm. And we are seeing ivermectin does that job. No? Okay, next slide. If there are lots of viruses already that has proliferated, then immune cells will run after them. And what it does, it shoot them with interferon, just like ammunitions in war. No? But sometimes, in many cases, even the immune cells will run out of interferon. But ivermectin will play its part by increasing the production of interferon and also its efficiency. Next slide. Lastly, it has been found as a secondary pathologic pathway. People are not dying on just the pneumonia or the SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, but some people are dying from hypercoagulative states. That means their blood are becoming so thick in that circulation has become impossible, so people are dying from that. And it is because the virus is attacking the CD147 receptor on the surface of the red blood cell. But then it has been found that even ivermectin is working on that area where it inhibits the CD147 receptor stimulation by the coronavirus. Okay, next slide. So we have worldwide clinical trials on ivermectin. Let us see. Next slide. So these are different clinical trials. I cannot go through all of them. No, you can see the dates when they were started. Maaga pa, early pa, no? May, June. They started in Argentina, Egypt, Israel, Mexico, Colombia, Bangladesh, Iraq, Spain. Next slide. We find their studies in Bangladesh, Thailand, Singapore, in Pakistan. Next slide. So many studies already overwhelming. Now it's more than, I think it's 80 already. Last time it was 70. So Bulgaria, we will find in the US, in Lebanon, even in Iran. There are 2 studies there, or 3 studies.
Yung parang,
And also studies in Colombia, in Nigeria. Next slide.
Parang,
Even in Japan. No? Okay. And in Peru. Okay. So next slide. The FLCC, one of the most active group of doctors who are using ivermectin are the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance. These are a group of doctors in the US who are authorities. So they're not just intensivists, they are authorities. They have written so many in the past that they have been authors of so many articles, not just hundreds of articles, thousands of articles, no? Combined, if you combine all these doctors who are authors of those articles on intensive care. So their specialty, they may be cardiologists, they may be pulmonologists or internists. Their specialty is on ICU, critical care. And they're saying that even on the stage of critical care, they are using ivermectin, they're getting good results. But they're recommending to use it even early, even during early treatment, and even much earlier as a prophylaxis, even before people get COVID. It's better to treat them on that level. Okay, so the studies that you have that I enumerated early, there are studies there on prophylaxis, means giving patients ivermectin even before they had the disease, no? And studies on early treatment and late treatment. And so they did meta-analysis. FLCC did its own meta-analysis. Another one by British Ivermectin Recommendation Development, the BIRD, did a meta-analysis. Even the WHO sponsored a meta-analysis. The next slide will show that. This was last year. It was spearheaded by Dr. Andrew Hill of University of Liverpool. And this is sponsored by the WHO. When you say meta-analysis, they combine all the data coming from all those trials and then come up with analysis of that, statistical analysis, and with recommendation or with conclusion. No? So in December 31, they were saying already that ivermectin reduces overall COVID-19 mortality by 83%. So that is a very significant number. Even if it's just 20%, that's already significant. If you save 20 people out of 100 who are supposed to die, that's a big accomplishment already. But with ivermectin, we're getting a number like 83. Okay, next slide. So some countries already adopted it as on their national policies to give out ivermectin to their population, such as Belize, which is a small state in small country in South America, and in Zimbabwe, in Africa, and in Slovakia in Europe. No? Okay, next slide. Next slide. Now in the Philippines, I was able to use ivermectin to my patients, to myself, to my parents, to my friends. I've been using it. Next slide. To more than 8,000 patients already from July to the present time. Next slide. And most of them are for prophylaxis. The side effects I'm getting, you know, this will be the index of safety. Out of the 8,000, I get about 50 to 100 patients complaining of watery stools. 10 of them may be complaining of abdominal cramping, goes along with the water stools, and some are getting rashes. These side effects are observed only, of course, because these people have parasites. No? Naturally, there will be a purging effect of ivermectin if people have intestinal parasites, so they will have watery stools. Usually, this will be just 1 to 2 episodes, and then after that, it's naturally stopped. No? And some allergies are mild, and there are just a few that I have to give antihistamine, and then after just a tablet of antihistamine, they're okay with the allergy. And because I've been doing it through Zoom meetings, people have been asking me about interactions with the drug they're taking, so I've been educating them, which I've been asking them to enumerate their medicine. They'll tell me, and I'll tell them they can take ivermectin. Because of that, no drug-to-drug interactions was reported. No adverse reactions also were ever reported. Next slide. As to efficacy, is the measure of the success. No, in prophylaxis, I've been telling maybe 99 ng success. No, the other meta-analysis are saying about 89% ang success of prophylaxis. Means you give ivermectin early, and then people are protected, they don't get the COVID-19. But because of when 2021 came, and the variants like South African and the UK variants were coming in, I was getting also some failures on that. No? So I revised my recommendation from taking 1 capsule every 3 weeks. I revised to just take it every 2 weeks in order to lessen the failure. Even then, if we get, I've been realizing now, even if people are taking ivermectin, they will somehow be infected by the virus. No? And it depends on their status of their immune system, their constitution, their vitamin mineral profile. Then they will manifest a certain degree of the illness. But most of them will be just mild if they're taking ivermectin. And we do early treatment. We are seeing lesser hospital stay, and no treatment failure if we have a first hand on this patient and we could get them early. No? As for late treatment, now we are seeing good results. No, there are people not my patient anymore. No, some are just being reported to me. For example, there's this case in Davao of patient having an oxygen saturation of 57% already, and they gave 4 capsules, single dose, and then in the afternoon, the oxygen saturation went up to 90, and now he's okay. The patient has recovered already. Okay, so we are planning on putting up a COVID-19 healing center, or sort of a makeshift hospital, temporary hospital, to address the need. No? There are lots of patients who are overflowing from the hospitals. They're not admitted because there are no beds, and they're just in the ER. Sometimes they're dying in the ER, and the problem is they're not given ivermectin even. No? And we are seeing we can give ivermectin, we can manage patients, and bring the relatives side by side on the bedside of the patient. We don't have to isolate the patient. And if we cover the relatives with ivermectin, they will be safe. And they will, it's a big factor for the healing if there's a support system along that's on the side of of the patient. No? So the last slide was when we presented this to the Senate President Tito Soto, and he had appreciated it, and he presented it to the Senate. And that was the last slide. Okay, I wrote my book, Freedom from COVID-19 now, Prevention Cure at Hand, way back December 1. It was rejected by National Bookstore. Controversial daw yung topic, so I have lots of copies with me, which I am giving to people. Okay, maybe there are many things that we can discuss later on during the question and answer. I just want to say, you know, the human organism has become so fragile. That's why we're succumbing to COVID-19. That's the reason. This should have been just a minor viral infection that could have been handled very well. But because we were for so many decades being given the wrong foods, no? We have been taking too high fructose, too high PUFAs and MUFAs, I mean polyunsaturated fatty acid, monounsaturated fatty acid. So our cells become weak, so we develop lots of ACE2 receptors. That's why these things are taking place. But then looking into that in that scientific aspect, we will know how to solve this. The solution to this pandemic, it will be a medical solution, because it's a medical problem that has repercussions on social lives, on economy, on many things. No? But then the solution will have to be a medical solution, and we want to prove that we can solve this very soon. Okay, with that, let me say good morning to everyone, and we'll have open forum later on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Landrito. I'd like to welcome another good friend, Ray Pacheco Jr. Ray, good morning and welcome. I know you have something to share which will probably bring hope to our friends as well. Please go ahead, Ray.
Ray Pacheco of Co-Collisions. We produce, I'm a member of the VCOP. You know, we produce, I produce virgin coconut oil from Mindanao now. So yeah, I think one thing to point out here is also that, you know, it's really good now. Because I consider that we are now like, we can say now we are like in a World War III situation or a state of war, wherein we need a lot of available tools and weaponry to fight our invisible enemy. No, like we have ivermectin. No, is a prominent tool to fight it. And then also on our side, we have the VCO, the virgin coconut oil. No, and I think the enemy is vast, so we all can work together, you know, to fight the invisible enemy. And second point I want to highlight is VCO or coconut oil has been around for a long time in many countries, and medically, I would like to point out that in 1999, coconut oil has been studied already locally as a fighter against HIV. This was done in 1999 in San Lazaro Hospital, and it was a successful trial against lowering the HIV viral count. And actually, since the 1960s, coconut oil, the active ingredient of coconut oil, which is lauric acid, to fight lipid-coated viruses and bacteria. So, lipid meaning you have a membrane which is made of fat covering the nucleus, whether an RNA or a DNA nucleus. No? And COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 is an envelope virus, which has a lipid coating, like HIV, influenza, and all that stuff. And recently, I think we hear from the news that the DOST FNRI conducted a very on clinical study on the use of VSO on mild cases. I say brilliant because they were able to use, one of the things that they monitored in the patients is an inflammatory marker called the C-reactive protein, and they saw that the inflammation of the patient went down faster with the use of virgin coconut oil. So that basically validates at the cellular level that VCO works. No? Okay, and so that's the beauty of the DOST study, which we can already adopt. And the third thing is that VCO, just to give you a full disclosure, is not a drug. VCO is a food. No, coconut oil is a food. No, it's a generally regarded as food by the US FDA. And but it is a special kind of food. It's a functional food. What is a functional food? A functional food is it offers health benefits beyond its nutritional value. The health benefit here is the antiviral, antimicrobial, and also also in the last few years, it was also determined to also have an effect on lessening the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. We've forgotten that already, but that was one of the things that made VCO very popular, the anti-Alzheimer's effect. But now it's also at the same time viral. Okay, so it's not a medicine, but it's a functional food that will help our immune system. And then thirdly, what to point out is the virgin several ways to VCO to your body. One which the DST did was to to take it orally, to take it by the tablespoons. In their case, naman, they mixed it in the meals or in the food of the patients. So you can mix it in the food. They applied like 1 tablespoon every meal, so like 3 tablespoons. These are in
Yes, June? Yeah, nawala yata yung internet connection natin. Nag-freeze ka. June, one more time. Oh, something went wrong. Well, hopefully it's not my internet. Sandali lang po mga kaibigan. One more time. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. We can only accommodate 100 participants. Hindi ko na-check. I all the while thought we can accommodate at least 400 today. But one of the questions we received was something like this. Dr. Landrito, we have a question for you. All right. One more time, Dr. Landrito. O, Jun, ikaw muna. Jun, Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr., please. Jun, yung tungkol sa pakikipag-usap sa gobyerno, what probably took them so long to approve itong ivermectin?
Hello?
Yes. Sandali lang, Ray. Sandali lang. Jun, ikaw na muna.
Yeah.
Teka, naka-mute ka pa. Oops. One more time. Okay. Jun? Teka, ayaw pumasok. Teka, ano kaya nangyari? May technical glitches yata tayo ngayon. Teka, sandali po mga kaibigan. Let's try. Okay,
Yun,
Jun.
okay. Well, you know very well that from the very start, I feel like parang niloloko na tayo eh. Looking at, noong una, what they were reporting is there is no available, even to the president, there is no available ivermectin for human. The ones available here is only for animals. For a while, that is what the line is. Until they realize maraming forum, maraming gumagamit pala, no? They change the line. There's only one that is known, yung mga imported, and there are those, so the pressure, and they said they're being pressured. You know, when you're being asked to do the right thing, you're not pressured. You're just being told to do the right thing. So even when I watch the way they report to the president, the last time, ivermectin, because the president took interest in it, you will notice that all the other lahat ng medicines, lahat ng mga vaccine, there is one page, mga one line sila yung report. Sa ivermectin, another page, a complete one page on ivermectin, including a portion na hindi na niya na-report, yung what can go wrong. What can go wrong. So, sabi nga namin, it is just common sense. You can see that it's one of the safest drug around, declared worldwide. There's so many studies done, clinical studies, and yet they found a way na una na yung DOST was saying we don't need to do a clinical study anymore on this. There's so many abroad. Pero ang problema, hindi nababasa ng DOH yun, tsaka DFA. Ang nakibabasa lang nila yung mga against that, and there are studies going on now. Probably, they ask us to wait, probably is sponsored by the pharmaceutical firms. But the studies that you saw, there's so many already. There's so many countries. There's so many FDAs in other countries better than our FDA now. Why do they want to look? They do their own studies, no? And then the line now is okay when they could see that there is mounting groundswell of users. Ano sinabi nila? No, we have authorized a hospital to compound it. Then next time we authorize another hospital. I don't know, tatlo na yata. Pero closely gathered secret kung sino yun, ha? I don't even know if they really authorize anybody. Why should they keep it a secret? And at the same time, ngayon they have that everybody who sells it are either smuggler or illegal traders, and that's why they have to be arrested. Pero yung secret, yung pwede mong bilhan, very tightly guarded secret. Sino ba yun? So okay. I mean, I feel like a fool if I listen to them.
Yeah, John, you find it strange? Do you find it strange?
I think it's a big lie.
Really? So, saan naroon yung pagsisinungaling dito?
Well, yung una, nakita mo na, all the attempts. Yung una, there is no prohuman here. When it turns out there's prohuman, they found a way to be able to stop all the sales. Now, they effectively, by coming up with the DOST, finally coming up with the sa June pa mag-uumpisa yan, and then it will take at least 6 months. So effectively, na-dribble nila. Na-dribble nila. And we have to wait for that. Ang dami-daming available. Yung mga vaccines, ang daming mali, ang daming sinasabing, they're able to find ways. Ito, walang harm, and they want to test the efficacy. Why test the efficacy? Doctors are using it. Why do you want to find out the efficacy? You're not testing the efficacy. Why are we talking of efficacy? There's so many countries using it. I understand 3,700,000,000 doses already given to humans. Wala nakita harm, and then they're trying to find the harm that they have found out. Yung overdose. You can blame aspirin for it also. Or paracetamol. Ang aspirin nga, pag nag-overdose ka, suicide. So what do you think? Tell us, if you are looking at the development on this, na i-dribble nila, what if this is really good? Even if 20% of the claim is okay, hindi ba criminal that you withhold it from others?
Okay. All right. Magandang issue yan. John, Mr. Pacheco, you were saying something about VCOs. Where will this be available?
Actually, VCO is already available. No? It's registered in the FDA as a food supplement. So it's actually readily available in the pharmacy and groceries and online. And actually, going back where I stopped, it has there are several ways to put it. One is oral, and then the others are nasal. You can apply VCO to your nose, and oil pulling, wherein you gargle with VCO, and topical, transdermal, where you apply it to your body, to your neck. Because what happens here, when you apply this, whatever means, when you apply it to your body, the our body contains what you call lipases, which converts the lauric acid into monolaurin, which is the active ingredient of the VCO, which is the antiviral nutrient. So okay, so the other thing now, the initiative right now by the VCOPR Association is we're distributing VCO to level 1 hospitals in coordination with the IATF so that we can relieve the congestions in those hospitals to a supplemental therapy for mild cases. So that's our initiative right now. And yeah, these are all over Metro Manila. So this is one way to help our overburdened healthcare workers. And lastly, now we've been talking also about the coconut industry. Now we can see that the farmers are contributing to our health. No? Before we were the ones helping them, but now they are helping us. So it has come full circle that the coconut farmers is now a major player in our health. And lastly, yeah, we don't need to import VCO. It's right here. We grow it, we eat it, we can mix it with our food, and I think in tandem with ivermectin, we have the weapons, the tools to fight COVID-19. So we just work together and with Dr. Alan and everybody else to fight this invisible enemy. Thank you, po.
All right, thank you, Jun. May ilang tanong, Dr. Alan, para sa inyo. Ano raw po ba yung proper dosage nito? Number one. Ano yung proper dosage ng ivermectin? What can you say about this, Dr. Alan?
Yes. Last year for prophylaxis, I was telling take 1 capsule every 3 weeks. But because of these variants coming in, we are observing there happens to have windows na hindi namin na-foresee. Mabilis masyado itong variants. So my recommendation was revised to every 2 weeks for prophylaxis, 1 capsule every 2 weeks. And then I also decided to include a loading dose. That means we have to take 1 capsule on day 1 and on day 2, then every 2 weeks thereafter. So it's also with consultation with other doctors. But if you want the dosaging recommendation for early treatment is for doctor consumption, but for them to be guided with what I have in mind. Of course, the discretion is with each and every doctor. They have all the right to modify their own dosing. It's available in my website, www.drlandrito.com.
Okay. Ang sabi nung isang tumawag dito, isang kaibigan nating periodista, you can reach the president only through Senator Bongo. Oh, so yun ang sabi ng aking kaibigang periodista. Pero may isang tanong pa rito, Dr. Alan. Meron mga doktor na nagsasabi they are willing to dare to prescribe. Pero they're worried baka mawala yung lisensya nila dahil sa hindi pa kasama ito sa formulary ng pamahalaan ng FDA. What do you have to say about this?
Actually, it's part of the Philippine Drug Formulary. There's even, I think, FDA saying a doctor can prescribe for ivermectin. And I don't know why these things have become so exaggerated. Even the Philippine Medical Association, also, issued their directive on suspending license of doctors who are prescribing ivermectin. But when we discuss this with other prominent lawyers, like, for example, we asked Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. He was saying it is not the PMA who can suspend the license. It is the PRC, Professional Regulatory Commission. And they don't just suspend license just like that. They will have to go through a process of investigation and seeing what really the violations are. And so what I have to say to that, no, it's just discouraging doctors from prescribing. Pero I don't think doctors should stop prescribing if they have access to ivermectin coming from other countries. Then they should prescribe it to their patients. In my case, I don't need to prescribe it because I was dispensing it. I produced my ivermectin, I gave it to my patients, so there's no need for a formal written. I just give them the ivermectin. What I do in order to go around the law means to even following the law, not violating any law. I make my patients sign an informed consent where there is stated they are taking ivermectin, knowing that this is for parasite, but they are using it as a purpose for their viral infection prophylaxis, and they know that they are taking an ivermectin coming from me, and it's not registered or is still in the process of registration.
I see. A question from a media colleague, hindi rin makapasok sa ating Zoom ngayon pero nanonood sa Facebook. Nabakunahan na raw po siya. Kailangan pa ba siyang uminom ng ivermectin?
Yeah, it's their choice po. No? You know, I am yet to see if there is really an assurance of efficacy of the vaccines. If there is no efficacy, then you're still naked in front of viruses. No? There are reports that people already had the vaccine and then months thereafter they got COVID and some even died. So I would say take ivermectin, it will protect you in, if not 100%, maybe 89%, it will protect you from getting COVID. Or if you get COVID anyway, it will be milder form and then you will survive. That's what I'm trying to say.
Another question for you. Please expound on plans to establish ivermectin-centered COVID treatment centers.
Yeah, we are actually, I've been getting invitations in Isabela, in Batangas, here in Metro Manila. So I have tested down on me to concretize what to do. So it came out that I should start opening my own hospital, makeshift hospital, temporary hospital, wherein we can start treating patients in a different way, not necessarily using what they call the standardized treatment, using remdesivir and intubation and tocilizumab and all that, but rather I would just give them ivermectin, intravenous vitamin C, virgin coconut oil, melatonin, many other things that are, that can be practically given without having to be very aggressive on intubating the patients and giving a truly working medicine, and we'll do action research. No? While doing that, we have documentation. It will be presented as an observational trial. We don't need to do placebo this time because people will die. It will be in our conscience if they die simply because we gave them placebo. We don't give placebo. We just treat everyone, and we are getting help from people who will organize this. We will be applying for compassionate special permit because we will be an institution by then. So an institution can apply for compassionate special permit, and if one institution is having compassionate special permit for a trial, then doesn't require a certificate of product registration for the ivermectin that they will use. So we will be going along the law, and we'll be helping people dealing with the COVID-19. And hopefully, the first one will establish in Metro Manila, and then this will be a prototype for the other provinces to do as well. And right now, we are looking for doctors who will volunteer, and nurses. We will give them remunerations. No? Myself alone cannot work 24/7 in that. But we will be 24 hours on communication with the whatever we can put up, whatever project we can put up.
Are you optimistic you'll get the go signal from the government because even ivermectin hasn't been given the necessary permit?
If we will need the mayor's permit, and that city or municipality will allow for it, we will apply for DTI registration of COVID-19. Say that the name of the institute will be COVID-19 Healing Center. Then we will apply for all the necessary legal requirements. Then we will apply to the FDA for compassionate special permit. if they have allowed two hospitals already, why would they not allow it to be for us? Because we are going to do clinical trials, so it should be approved as well. And if we do that, and if they don't approve it, then people will complain, because obviously they are not allowing ivermectin simply because we will be the one having our own hand. We'll be on hand in doing the trials ourselves. No, so I don't know what will happen if they will not allow. I think they will allow for it.
Okay, a question from a foreign correspondent: how soon could you put up your healing center? Any time frame?
Yeah, we are just discussing how it will be financed. To start with, we need hospital, even folding beds will do. We need tanks, oxygen tanks. We need laboratory, even a makeshift laboratory. We need nurses to apply in. We need a cook. We need utilities. We need doctors to volunteer. It will be a big thing to set up, but we want to hasten the process, do as soon as possible, start operation in a week's time, maybe.
Okay, we have a question here from Ed M. Why is my wife who had a stroke not allowed by her doctor to take ivermectin because she is taking blood thinning medicine? If we stop the blood thinner, can my wife take ivermectin as a prevention for COVID-19?
Yeah, it depends on the blood thinner. Not all blood thinners have drug interaction with ivermectin. They should look into that. And being a stroke patient herself makes her very susceptible to getting the COVID-19. It's one of the comorbidities. It's one of the disease states under metabolic syndrome that makes a person susceptible to COVID-19. So she should be prioritized to be given ivermectin. And if it has something to do with the blood thinner, then if that particular blood thinner has interaction with ivermectin, they can change that with one which has no interaction with ivermectin and be given ivermectin as soon as possible.
I see. Okay. There's another question. Is there such a thing as overdose from ivermectin?
Every medicine have their own overdose, no? We are yet to see what is overdose for humans, no? We're seeing that the human organism have very high tolerance, and the margin of safety in terms of dosing is so wide, no? Every doctor is confronted with that question, giving any kind of medicine is prescribing to his patients. It's a matter of weighing the risk and benefits. For example, penicillin. In cases of meningitis, you can give penicillin, different forms of penicillin. You can give penicillin 10 times the dosage that you give for respiratory infection. And there will be problems associated with that. But you are risking a higher problem when the patient is meningitis, so you give it anyway. The doctor is within the discretion of the doctor to determine, dosing. And it may be that the doctor will be raising a patient on overdosing, but if he's addressing a potentially lethal condition, saving the life of patient becomes primary than the safety of overdosing. But then, even the overdosing has not really been established that's profoundly. There are numbers that they are saying, but these have not been really verified clinically. These are only theoretical assumptions so far. So when it comes to overdosing, for example, I tell you, there's a patient who was given 4 capsules, single dose of ivermectin. The level of autosaturation already 57 went up to 90. So can you question that doctor who gave it as overdosing the patient? No. There were no side effects on that dose. No. And there, among the studies that I cited earlier, one is giving 120 milligrams. That's 10 times the parasitic dose, single dose to the patients, and it's not causing any problem with the patients. So what I'm seeing is, when we look into ivermectin, it's a product of bacteria. It can be even classified as a natural product. Maybe it should be reclassified from a medicine to a food supplement. And it, for example, we have probiotics. We have even functional foods. For example, you have blue cheese, you have yogurt, you have kefir. These are made from bacterial fermentation of the milk, no? And this bacteria giving off certain, certain byproducts that are edible even. And so it's a matter to be yet to be explored. For example, penicillin. It was discovered in 1926, but there were no clinical trials then yet at that time when World War II came in the 1940s. And they, the soldiers were getting wounded. They need antibiotics. They gave penicillin without clinical trials, and it was okay to give that. It's a matter of necessity that is why these are given in the past. And I think the same holds true for the problem we have at hand, pandemic.
We'd like to acknowledge Dr. Iggy Agbayani Jr. is already with us. Dr. Iggy, where are you? I'd like to see you.
Hi. Hello po.
Yeah, good. Welcome aboard, and nice to see you. I hope you had a good clinic earlier.
Thank you po for inviting me. Good to see you, sir, and good to see my good friend, Dr. Alan Landrito, once again.
Yeah.
May apologies po kasi may clinic ako ngayon. Karina lang, kagabi lang sinabi sa akin. Kaya hindi ko na schedule. Pasensya na po.
It's okay, it's okay. Pero tell us about what's going on today. You have 997,523 cases. You have 16,783 fatalities. And yesterday we listed 8,162 new cases with 20,509 recoveries. How do you look at the figures?
Well, kasi po, when you look at figures, you don't want to look at the accumulated numbers. You must look at the, sabihin na natin, weekly would be better than yung accumulated numbers. And I usually look at the number of admitted and number of yung mga hospital capacity. That is the more crucial number. Because we are now beginning to realize that this disease is not a major killer. It is a killer, but not a major killer. But unfortunately, our primary health care and our hospitals are not able to cope. Kaya po parang it becomes a tragedy na kunyari pasyente. Normally, masisave naman, pero dahil walang vacancy, namamatay. Yun ang tragedy. So sa akin lang, we really need to be concerned pag tumataas yung numbers because it would lead to our hospitals getting full. But as I checked last night, parang 70% full na lang eh. So mukhang gradually it's getting controlled despite the numbers na nakikita natin.
Okay, but would you say that we're lagging behind our ASEAN neighbors?
Oh, absolutely. Kasi ang reason doon, napakagaling ng neighbors natin. Magaling lang talaga sila. Pero we're not so bad. I think in the world parang number 60 pa nga tayo in terms of by population. Kasi siyempre we have a population of more than 100 million. If you think about the number of deaths per million, hindi tayo masyadong mataas. But not to say that I'm happy with that. We really have to be similar to our neighbors kasi similar race, similar climate, and we are not very far in terms of yung economic status with them, but unfortunately we are now lagging behind.
Okay, what could be the secret of Vietnam?
I'm sorry, sir.
What could be the secret of Vietnam? They only have 35 fatalities and over 2,000 infections.
Yun na nga tanong. I think they were able to catch it early. I think one of the major reasons is that they have a healthier population. And this is something that's not often discussed. And I'm sure Dr. Landrito will agree with me na the best way to fight COVID-19 is to stay healthy. Okay. Again, hindi ko naman masabi stay young. Because you cannot stay young. But I'm seeing many people who are even in their 90s are doing well even if they got COVID. So why is that? So I think it's because our problem is sa Pilipinas, I've noticed we are not taking care of our metabolic problems. cardiometabolic problems. And number one dyan yung diabetes. A lot of people think they're doing well, because they just use fasting blood sugar. But actually po, sa COVID-19, they're finding out it's the newly diabetic ang mataas tinatamaan ng COVID-19. So who are these? Ito po mga tao to, normally, parang normal pa yung FBS nila, hindi pa masyado mataas. Kasi tayo Pilipino, pag titest tayo ng blood, ng fasting blood, gagawin natin 10 hours, tapos hindi tayo kakain masyado on the night before. Pero yung pala, diabetic na tayo kasi dapat ang ginagamit natin yung HbA1c. But another sign na diabetic po, yung waistline. Just look at your waistline. If your waistline is more than half your height, you are likely to be a diabetic, if not now, very soon. So, kung yari kayo ay 5-footer, masyado ba maliit yung 5 foot? Sabihin natin 6 foot times 12. So, 70 inches yon. So, dapat, ang waistline mo is not more than 35. So, sabi ng iba, pwede pa ba ako magpatangkad para maabutan ko yung waistline ko? So, but that is one of those easy signs that you might be prone to COVID-19. And I think a lot of Filipinos are becoming that because sedentary na tayo, pagkain natin, puro matatamis. Pasensya na po sa Aristocrat, pero masarap po yung matamis nyo dyan eh. Bibingka, masarap sa Pero ino-order ko dyan yung barbecue chicken.
Okay. Good. Yeah. I can understand. Yeah. So, what about the influence of fast foods?
Yes. Kasi po, alam nyo, fast foods, dalawang factors sa fast foods. They offer sugars. They offer it together with the meals. In fact, the only healthy food in fast food is the burger part. Yung bun, the French fries, the juices, the desserts. And I think they're using the bad oils. So I do not recommend yung gamitin nila yung mga bad oils like yung mga vegetable oil, canola oil. They're not good for our health. And most fast foods use that. Kasi po very, hindi siya madaling masira, will last the shelf. So that's why most fast foods are not healthy. But if you have to eat fast foods, go eat the burger itself. Ganun po.
Okay. All right. Did I get it right? May tanong pa rito. This will be for Ray and for Dr. Alan. Pwede bang pagsabihin yung ivermectin at virgin coconut oil?
Yes.
Sumagot dito muna.
Yes. Actually, virgin coconut oil is really a very amazing product. In 2011, I started a health club. It's all about coconut oil. What Sir Reynaldo Pacheco Jr. was discussing was really a very wonderful topic, no? And I was also sad that DOH did not support the DOST finding on efficacy of PCO on COVID-19. No? Actually, in what we're planning to do, we will advise VCO with a regimen. No? So ivermectin is a direct thing that acts on the virus and supporting the immune status of the patient, immune response. And VCO is something medyo physical talaga ang gamit sa VCO. You have to apply it in the nose. You have to take it to 2 tablespoonful at night, 1 tablespoonful in the morning. It's really working good also. So putting a VCO and ivermectin together, it will be a very good thing to do. Each one can stand alone, and putting them together will be better. No? And then adding to the question earlier, no? Yung mga neighbors natin, maganda ang nutrition nila. I agree with Dr. Iggy. We've been discussing this also even earlier. The problem why we have this metabolic syndrome, people are getting big waist and very high sugar, is because of taking too much of the fructose, the polyunsaturated fatty acid and monounsaturated fatty acid, the bad oils. Ito talaga ang root eh. That's why these people, if you can see yung mga countries na affected, number 4 to number 10 European countries, they're taking a lot of the bad foods. And the US, and even Brazil and India, lahat ng nandiyan, they're taking a lot of the bad foods. Even the Philippines, we're number 26 now. We are taking a lot of the bad foods. Pero yung Vietnam, ang ganda ng food niyan, mga pohwa niyan, mga po nila. Talagang vegetable ano sila and then they don't use much of the bad oils. Coconut ang ginagamit. So it has something to do. The human organisms become so susceptible in a very weak virus simply because they have been, kaya ng lesson natin, we have been not eating properly, we have not taken care of our health. That's why we're caught unaware of this virus that could have been simply eradicated early on.
Yeah. Alan, siguro posible rin na yung kasabihan ng mga ilang Pilipino, ilang kababayan natin, nabubuhay para kumain at hindi kumakain para mabuhay. Right?
Hindi kumakain para mabuhay.
Araw eh. Yeah, if I recall it right, yun ang wisdom ni Doña Delilah at ni John Puruntong. But anyway, Ray, would you care to add to the discussion about coconut oil and ivermectin? John?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Alan, Doc Iggy. No? To add to the thing about diet, no? Siguro before, when I was young, no? Siguro before, long time ago, ang typical cooking oil natin was coconut oil. In fact, diyan nag-umpisa ang lahat. No? But sometime towards the late 80s and 90s, nag-shift tayo towards other oils like mga polyunsaturated oil. So ito yung sinasabi ng mga doktor, nila Doc Iggy, na we're going towards bad oils that causes metabolic syndrome. So, yun. So, yeah. So if we can continue going back to coconut oil for our cooking oil, well, this is not to endorse, but a prominent brand is Minola. It's an RBD. It's a coconut oil, no? You can use it for your cooking, and then you can eat more gata, like the Thais, and actually yung mga African countries, like yung sinasabi na countries ni Dr. Alan, yung mga sa Central Africa, mga, what do you call that? They produce a lot of coconuts also. They have a lot of coconut milk in their diet. Thailand, Indonesia. Kaya lang, there's a competing diet, Western diet in also this country. So naglalaban-laban. Siyempre, mas bongga yung Western diet, fast food diet. But if you can go back to a coconut diet, coconut milk, coconut oil for cooking, and then for our French fries, and also, well, overall also as a supplement for our day-to-day, then I think that would really be helpful to avoid metabolic diseases.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Raymond Reyes, I know you have some concerns. Please come in and join the discussions. You have something to say, Raymond? Yes, Raymond.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. Alan and Iggy. And I'll try to get your number from Melo. Padalang ko kayo ng chicken barbecue and your stuff. Salamat po sa pag-attend nito. Itong meeting, which is very important, no?
Yeah, that's a nice idea, Raymond.
Animal aside, Dr. Alan.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions, about 7. 6 of them is addressed to Dr. Alan Landrito, and 1 is kay Mr. Ortiz. Okay, I'll fire away. I went against my 2 doctors. One is infectious disease and one is cardio. And reading all this stuff, nung una kasi yung Lasal group namin were advocating Iver. Hindi ko pinapansin dahil pang-animal eh. Ganon, di ba? Like other, I brush it off until very persistent yung Viber group namin. Kept on saying again, and they had several cases, one of which my classmate in Batangas, yung branch manager, yung partner niya sa rural bank, got COVID, and he didn't know, and they had a party in one of the hotels. So naimbita, no? Luckily, my classmate was not able to go. Na-affect yung isang branch manager niya na COVID, no? So fortunately, yung classmate ko, merong kapatid na doktor galing sa States. In-advise niya to look for ivermectin. Okay, so namatay yung business partner sa COVID. And then na-affect nga yung branch manager. Naghanap sila. I think nahanap nila yung kay Dr. Landrido. Yung pill niya, no? Yung red and yellow pa. Binigyan ng lahat, 100 employees. Hindi na COVID. Parang preventive medicine. Yung 8 na COVID, pinigyan nila, nag-survive within maybe 1 week or something like that. No? So that started opening my mind to this wonder drug, di ba? So I went against my 2 doctors and started taking ivermectin as a prophylaxis. I'm on my 2nd pill. My 3rd one will be on April 30. Now, one question is, Dr. Landry, bakit po 2 weeks ang gap? Is it because after 14 days, nawawala na yung bisa ng ivermectin? And the other follow-up question, number 2, is how long can you take this ivermectin as a preventive or prophylaxis medicine?
Dr. Landrito, dagdagan ko muna. May tanong pa rin, correlated to that. Ang sabi, ganito, para mas maganda, no? How can an anti-parasitic medicine or food supplement can be used against COVID? Does it kill the virus or strengthen our immune system so that it naturally fights the virus? Yan, para mas maganda.
Okay. Yeah, the first question is why 2 weeks? Before I used to give it every 3 weeks because the literature is saying it stays in the human system for 23 to 30 days. But we are realizing come 2021, even if we give it every 3 weeks, nagkakaroon pa rin ng COVID yung iba. No? It's because maybe mababa na masyado yung level niya if we wait for 21 days. So we revise it to every 2 weeks. Para mataas pa yung level niya, we boost it again with another dose. And until when are we going to prophylax? I would say until the COVID pandemic season is here. No? The COVID season is here, we still need to prophylax. We need to do prevention steps. No? And then the question, why does an anti-parasitic be given to a virus? Actually, it is not just an anti-parasitic. I discussed the 4 properties. It is an anti-cancer drug, it's an immunomodulator, it's antiviral, it is anti-parasitic. Just like aspirin. Aspirin is an antipyretic and an anti-inflammatory medicine. It is also used for blood thinning. No? So you cannot, it's the property of that medicine for different properties niya. So you cannot just constrict. That's what the OH is trying to, and FDA is trying to make our minds constricted. Antiparasitic yan. Come on, it's not antiparasitic. It's an antiviral medicine. Should have been revised na categorization. Should be antiviral, antiparasitic, immunomodulator, anti-cancer. Kaya, yeah, they're dribbling. Tama yung term ni Congressman Atienza. They are just dribbling things para malito ang mga tao. It should be antiviral. Kaya, although it's also an antiparasitic.
Okay.
Number 3 question.
Yes, please.
Melo? Okay.
Yes,
Doc,
yes, pa.
Doc Alan, I emailed you last night and I wanted to be a patient of yours, parang on a adaptive, not clinical, but adaptive basis, di ba? Like that lady, I forgot the name, that says in PGH, it's no longer clinical trials, it's adaptive trials. So anyway, we will email each other. No, because I want to be healthy. I want to have a doctor who can prescribe to me ivermectin and also the vaccine, which will take up in a while. So my 3rd question is, you said, I think last night we were on De La Salle Family Wellness Institute, no? You said it was a natural medicine and so forth. So when I researched ano ba yung ingredients ng ivermectin? I found out it's a microorganism, live microorganism from Japan, no? Single microorganism. So the one question is, the source is still from Japan, and if it's a microorganism, how's that technology used? Is this freeze-dried because your medicine is in powder form, in capsule, di ba?
Okay. Penicillin. What is penicillin? Penicillin is a product of a particular mold called penicillium, and this mold is producing this byproduct called penicillin. They just collect the penicillin. In the same way, ivermectin is a product of a bacteria called Streptomyces vermiculus. It keeps on producing that compound. No? So they just collect it. So it's a natural product. No? They just collect it and then it's in powder form. They bring it in powder form. So, and being in powder form, it is really very stable. That's why the mix that I brought with it is dextrose and hydrose. It has zero moisture para hindi ma-alter siya. And the classification of the compound is a macrocyclic lactone. It's just like milk. That's why it smells like milk. Although it's a very powerful compound. No? So it's a natural compound only carrying carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen elements there. And I showed you the diagram. It's a very complex compound, an organic compound. So, for example, we are maintaining diabetics with metformin for life. These are synthetic medicines. Lupus, we are maintaining them with hydroxychloroquine for life. These are synthetic medicines. But if we maintain a person with a natural product, it will be much even safer. Although we know if we maintain patients with metformin, diabetic patients with metformin, we have to keep track on their liver enzymes and even their creatinine. It may be harming in a long-term manner if you give it. So it's the same thing with ivermectin. We may be giving it for life, and we just have to look into parameters like liver and kidney function test, no, creatinine, SGPT, and all that. That's the way to do it, I think. No, kasi if it's anti-cancer, so you don't see any problem why give it long term. It won't cause cancer anyway because it's an anti-cancer product. No, I'm saying because I have seen patients who have psoriasis and they're responding with ivermectin. I've seen patients with many different kinds of autoimmune disorder. They're responding to ivermectin. So I'm seeing the possibility in the future it may be used long term. Even after pandemic, some people may be using it. Me, for example, I may be using it every week, every month to prevent cancer. Maybe that will be the trend later on because it is turning out to be really a wonder drug. And it's a natural product at that time. I don't see any problem taking it long term.
Number four and 5 question is not touching COVID, but it's touching dengue. I had dengue siguro about 4 years ago, and there was no medicine. It was only tawa-tawa and IV in the hospital that I got, no. But apparently, I think you mentioned that it can handle dengue 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Now the question is, my question is number 4 and 5. Has this ivermectin been approved by, let's say, international bodies like WHO, FDA for use in dengue? And the other related question is, my observation, parang common denominator with this COVID, dengue, malaria, river blindness. Ang carrier po is mosquitoes. I thought yung river blindness was because people in Africa were laundering their clothes, taking a bath, etc., etc. Yung pala, yung cause ng river blindness is through a mosquito biting you and leaving mga parasites and so forth, no? So I was wondering if itong COVID na to is also, let's say, yung carrier, mosquito, and then transferred to humans, cholera, you know, when you touch something. So yun po, is ivermectin approved for dengue? Because there's no official medicine for dengue. May dembak siya, patay pa yung mga tao, di ba?
Yeah. Very nice question po. I appreciate it, Sir Raymond. Actually, you know, if you look at it, the FDA and the DOH are slaves of the WHO and Big Pharma. They could have acted independently. And if they look, if they're really good, no, they should have. We are a dengue country. We are different from other. That's why when dengue tragedy gave us news all over the world. It has no significance on the many other countries because they are not dengue countries. They don't have dengue in their country. But we are heavily infested, infested, if you can use that term, with dengue mosquito, the Anopheles, the dengue vector, the mosquito. We have heavily dengue country that should have research on ivermectin early on instead of using the dengue bacteria, which proved to be a tragedy. Had we we cannot just rely on WHO. There's no research R&D being done by WHO. It's also reliant on big pharma for the research. And if we will just rely on big pharma, we will be, we will be helpless in the many. I mean, we will be not able to get access with the best, with a very good research. Knowledge that with the updated knowledge that were found by independent researchers. So dengue 1, 2, 3, 4 is established already, can be handled by ivermectin. And the recommendation, wala. So we will have to look for it. Ano ba? For example, in this COVID, there's no recommendation for COVID-19 simply because COVID-19 is new. So I have to, to look into the experiences of other doctors using it. And I have to make my own recommendation for it. And then along the course of time, that's why I revised my dosing. We are reaching a more workable protocol in using it for treatment, for prophylaxis, early and even late treatments. No? So for dengue, it should have been explored early on. 2012 pa yung data eh. Lumabas na eh. Kung magaling sa DOH natin, ginamit na hindi yung dengue bacteria. Anyway, dengue bacteria is also good, pero nakita nga it's a failure because of the immune-mediated enhancement complication that it carries, no? And so they should look into therapeutics just like ivermectin for dengue. Kaya maganda po yung tanong ninyo eh. So kung talagang they are the Department of Health, they should be researching, hindi lang asa ng asa, parang alipin lang ng Big Pharma and the WHO. We should be independent on our own. Philippines we have the best breed of doctors. I mean, the very brilliant doctors in the Philippines. They should have been consulted, even in this COVID-19 situation. Ang problema, sinusolo lang nila as if they have the monopoly of the knowledge managing COVID-19. But they don't have. Sadly, they don't have. But there are other doctors who knows it. They don't want them to interfere with their programs. And what they've been doing, they have been doing it for 1 year. It's not really that effective. And if you ask them what they're doing for prophylaxis, I don't know if they're really having anything in the prophylaxis. Early treatment, meron daw silang abigyan. Pero abigyan, I don't know kung nabigyan niya lahat ng mga health centers everywhere. No? Pero in treatment, they're using remdesivir. Remdesivir is even proven by a solidarity trial that's really not working good. And I don't know why they're suppressing other. Even the BCO is a very good thing. I'm so happy Mr. Pacheco, he really brought that up. It's really something that the DOST has already proven. And he was mentioning about the work of Dr. Conrad Berit. He's the best person on BCO. And it's really, I believe BCO is also, by itself, can be a standalone in the management of COVID-19. Could have been given early on and then can be given even in early treatments. Can be given in prophylaxis and all that. So maraming questions like that na talagang confusing kasi I think they're trying to, and they feel threatened if somebody questions them. They tend to pose themselves as the monopolizer of knowledge on management of COVID-19.
Okay.
Yes, in
Well,
fact, even Dr. Tess, what was that? You
Lori,
met,
Lori.
yes, she was disputing the calculation of WHO analyst, di ba? Parang ganun, but that's, I mean, another thing. So anyway, my number 6 question is, my wife and I are, let's say, scheduled for vaccine for Moderna this June, July, August. And I'm wondering is if I get COVID vaccine, should I take that Moderna or some other vaccine, which is, let's say, less controversial, because may comorbidities ako and so forth. Doc, no. That was my question.
Yeah, I made note about the vaccine. I think Dr. Iggy is a better person to answer
Dr.
on vaccine.
Dr. Iggy, yes, please. On vaccines, yeah.
Yeah, actually difficult wondering that we're in kasi it's being promoted by government when it's still an experimental vaccine. So parang may ano yun eh. May problem with that. For one, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines, as you know, are a different kind of vaccine. Eh. It's never been tried before.
mRNA.
Yes, I'm not even sure, but probably they have tried it on animals, like yung mga poultry, because I've heard that they were doing these studies on animals before. But this is the thing, we really can't predict exactly what will happen with we have no long-term studies. Because you can always say we have these animal studies, we can always say that so far from the phase 2 and phase 3 trials, which is still very small, it's safe, but there's no long-term studies. And it's a very new vaccine. So I'm a little cautious with them. Definitely, we can see the efficacy. Walang problema sa efficacy, maganda nga raw siya. But when you have a new drug, kailangan po talaga dalawa. Hindi pa pwedeng efficacy lang. You must show both. And if they are doing this to ivermectin, where they're asking for safety and efficacy, wala na nga problema sa safety. Sa efficacy, wala na rin problema. Why couldn't we do that with the vaccines? So having said that, I personally do not want to have my vaccine yet. And the reason is I have no long-term studies. So it's good that we have ivermectin because it allows us some time to be protected while we wait for the longer-term outcomes. And I'm not really saying that we shouldn't use vaccines. No? The science of vaccines are good. Polio, smallpox, but every vaccine is different from the present vaccine. So we're actually learning something now. For example, yung kiniklaim nila mga 90% efficacy when it comes to a different population is lower. Yung pala nasa 80% lang, hindi yung kiniklaim nila na 98, 97%. But once again, balik tayo sa safety issues. It's still not clear-cut. And if you look at just the virus report po, these are the reported cases of reactions and even deaths. I'm amazed na it's quite significant. I mean, sure, sabihin na natin 1 in 1 million, but I don't need to take it because I think there are options naman. And for 1 year, hindi ako nagkasakit eh. Now I will risk myself of getting sick, for example. And there is the question of yung tinatawag nilang antibody-dependent enhancement, the ADE. Now, this to me is very significant kasi you will not see the effects maybe in a long time pa or when you get exposed to the virus. So it could be next year pa tayo ma-experience. But as we've seen in dengue, it did happen a few months later. But what is ADE? It was actually observed in the vaccines used for two of the cousins of COVID-19 or Corona 2. No? It was seen in MERS. It was seen in SARS, in the vaccines that were developed then. But good thing, hindi naman sila mRNA. So again, I really don't know about these new vaccines. They will have antibody-dependent enhancement.
Okay. My last question, Melo, is addressed to Mr. Ortiz.
Ortiz Luis, June. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Kasi 3 of my relatives died of COVID. So I mean, like, this is really serious, you know. My brother-in-law also got infected, pero he was able to survive with Favipiravir or the pill.
Remdesivir.
Yeah,
Remdesivir.
from Japan, parang clinical trials. But in the case of my relatives who died, one was yung Remdesivir, hindi tumalab sa kanya. And then the other one, I think, is pneumonia yata, no? So before that, I scrambled to look for Pneumovax 23, yung 5-year pneumonia. Kasi ang isang ano sa COVID is ang papatay sa iyo yung pneumonia, di ba? So okay na that as a preventive also that we took Pneumovax 23, yung 5-year no. Now my question to Mr. Ortiz is I myself can take ivermectin. I mean, sarili ko lang, no? But how do we parang emanate this sa mga employees natin? Because one way or the other, ma-affect sila. Yung infection in rate in Metro Manila is very high. Tatamaan ka talaga eh. It's airborne, di ba? Ang sabi nila, 3 hours or something like that. Now they realize it's airborne. So in terms of, let's say, ivermectin, prophylaxis, preventive, and also cure, at the same time, yung after effects ng COVID is also serious. And I've heard in the States, one doctora there, forgot her name, Filipina, she says kaya rin ng long haul COVID cure ito, no? So my question to Mr. Ortiz is, as Philippine Chamber of Commerce, how do we now legally deploy these medicines to our employees? Kasi it's very expensive. Ma-hospital ka, baka mamatay ka sa hospital bills kung ano, cost by the millions. Hindi kaya ng mga employees. So one is yung ivermectin as a preventive tool, no? Yun po.
But anyway, hello to the family, all family present. What we can get hold of, ang daming nagre-request sa Philippine Chamber, sa PhilExport, sa ECO. So when we get hold of it, yung mga nagre-request, mga employees, bumibili sila, no? Kung if we can get hold of it, pinapasa namin. There are those also who imported. So lahat to na-import, kung makakakuha kami, kumukuha. Dahil maraming naghahanap. The problem is, it looks like you are a criminal when you start using it. So what we do is, sige, meron kami, those who want to buy, you buy, or yung mga nagre-reserve. It's not easy to get supplies also, but there is no lack of employees who would like to get it. And it's something that unlike the other medicines, unlike the other, that the companies can afford to give freely, even the small ones, because it's so cheap. So napapamigay, as you mentioned, the other are so expensive. The companies reeling on expenses now are not capable of distributing it. So at the moment, the reason why we got into this, the Philippine Chamber, all of the directors there are advocate of ivermectin. That is why even sa mga formal meetings, sinasabi namin sa IATF talaga, what's happening? Why are you, there is a solution, you find problems. I'm sure sa BCO, somebody will come up with a problem. Again, doon nga yung sa tuob, they also found the problem with that. So, ang role nila ngayon, anything that is cheap, they find problems. So, that is my worry. Even yung BCO, I'm sure they'll come up with something that it is bad for the lungs, but whatever. So, yun yung tuob eh. Nakakita pa sila ng problema eh. At lining daw ng stomach, ng lungs, mga ano. So why is it that they always have a problem? We suggest solutions, they find problems. It should be the other way around. This one is we get enthused with this simply because it's something that is affordable by everybody, especially our micro industries, which is 90% of our industries. 50% already closed down. And every time you come up with something that will protect their health or natatakot yung mga kumpanya because they cannot afford. Okay. So that is why we're so mad that everything that they do, they have thrown all the sink on this, no? When actually common sense only, there is nothing wrong with it. I think, why is it that we're the only ones who say that there is nothing wrong with it, that it is safe? They don't know about it. They're looking at efficacy when we are just, why can't we just use it? The doctors wants to use it, why don't you allow them? So lahat ng tackle ginagawa nila.
Yes po. So paanong remedyo dito? Do we ask our employees to sign a waiver? Or as Dr. Landrido was saying, yung informed consent?
Kami, we just make it available and say, who wants to get it, get it. Alam niyo, everybody knows it eh.
No need to sign for a waiver because
kami, we do not give many. Yung employees mo, we make it available. You want to drink every 2 weeks, you drink. You will give it to you free every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we are not afraid of. We're not doctors naman. Yung mga doctorates naman namin hindi naman doctor of medicine eh. Doctor of common sense naman yung doctorates namin eh. That's what I'm saying eh. Which is very lacking to the ones implementing this. No?
Okay.
So,
thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, reaction from Doc Iggy. Doc Iggy, please. Paki-unmute lang. Before we go to Raul. Yeah, please.
Yeah, ang ano ko po, you cannot do anything mandatory. We do not recommend it, except if they are sick. Then you have to tell them they cannot go to work. Yun lang. That is how it should be. We should actually respect the rights of our employees, etc. There will be people naman talaga that will not die from COVID. They will just get sick longer. So it's an optional thing. But certainly, if they're sick, they cannot be allowed to go to work. Now, remember then that this ivermectin is not really recommended by yung mga meta-analysis for healthy people. And there's a reason for that kasi we also want to develop yung natural immunity in a safe way. So that is how you do it. It's okay if you are below 50 siguro, no comorbidities, no diabetes. You might get sick and then you develop the natural immunity. So it doesn't mean that everyone should be given ivermectin or everyone should be given vaccination. Kasi in the long run, if we prevent anyone from developing their immunity, it will hit us at some point. Kasi ang herd immunity kasi is a moving target. So we have to understand yung public health implications ng ginagawa natin. So again, I repeat, we should not force the employees. Maybe this is the way I would do it. If there is a parang multiple reports na nagkaroon ng COVID within your company or building, maybe that is the time you highly encourage it. But again, you cannot do it mandatory.
Okay, thank you. June, may idadagdag ka? Mr. Pacheco, please.
Yes, yeah, I just want to add, no, kasi actually sa coconut oil, ang resistance sa coconut oil, actually it's in fairness to the Philippine government, it's actually a global thing, like yung mga FAO and WHO, they consider, they consider saturated fat as bad, masama daw against heart disease. But the saturated fat in coconut oil, lauric acid, is actually a healthy fat, no? In fact, the DOST study, which I think is a brilliant study, monitored yung what you call CRP, C-reactive protein, which is an indicator of cardiovascular disease. And dun sa study sa VCO actually lowered this inflammatory marker. So again, going back to what the Dr. Landrito said, I hope this pandemic opens the eyes of us to have more research on natural medicine, traditional medicine, alternative medicine, not to put boundaries to what we can do, what we can research on, but this is like a test bed for us, the pandemic, on what we can do and what we can explore. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Raul on the line. Raul, ano yung concern mo? Please go ahead.
You know, well, I'm the friend of Raymond, no? So I just have since the beginning of our blog in our what you call this, our LaSalle thing, I've always seen two things. How come there are too many divergent opinion among doctors about ivermectin? It started off as first they didn't like it as a treatment, then as a prophylaxis. Later on, it was they were more open to treatment, but not as a prophylaxis. No, what I can't understand really why there are too many opinions, pros, against, and everything, when in fact it's already the WHO who said we have a pandemic. It is an emergency, right? In my opinion, I used to be a pilot before. I retired already. When you have an emergency, even if you're not qualified to fly a plane because you don't have a license, you will not be sanctioned if you save the plane from landing. No, it's an emergency. Now, why are they preventing physicians from the start? Started from treatment, now as a prophylaxis. They're supposed to be the expert. I mean, if the problem now is that if you make it illegal, people will get it maybe illegally, which is not manufactured correctly, which is more harmful than just saying, okay, sabi nga ni Mr. Ortiz, what are the secret hospital? Why won't you publish it so that people can go and ask? Like for instance, in PGH, there is a line that you can consult, whether you're a senior citizen or whether you're a public person. Why are the government not giving us the available contact places to get this so that we can be properly administered in that? I mean, that's what I'm wondering about. You know, if it's really bad, then have this government institution put up these places where the poor can go up. Bawal ito, ha? I'm a physician. I don't believe in it. bawal ito, or if there's a physician said, oh, sige, try it, it's an emergency. So I don't know, are we an emergency or are we just we're not? Because if we're not, then there's no point to this lockdown.
Okay.
And everything that they're doing.
Okay.
That's basically my question.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice. And Dr. Iggy, please.
Yeah, I'd like to react. Thank you, Raul. That has been my observation for the past 20 years. How come some doctors believe, some doctors don't believe, and then we try to arrive at a consensus. And then how come in this particular pandemic, look at Dr. Landrito, look at Dr. Homer Lim. Hindi sila I wouldn't call them mainstream. They're actually yung tinatawag nating holistic approach, di ba? They're the ones who listen. There's something wrong with our group, and I belong to that. I'm a mainstream doctor. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I used to be a faculty of UP College of Medicine, PGH. So I realized that we've been corrupted, and not a lot of us will admit this, and some don't even know it. And no one is accepting money. When I say corrupted, there is pala. Hindi naman meron tumatanggap. But when I say corrupted, even our education, the medical education, is already affected by big money. And it can come from anywhere, but mostly from big pharma, from industry, from nutrition issues. So we've seen that happen with cholesterol. We've seen that happen with, as you know, BCO has been around for what, 40 years? It was demonized by Harvard, by Yale, by so many big schools back in the 80s. Now they're saying it works. There's something wrong. Anything that competes with big profit will be demonized.
Okay.
It's no longer about being cheap. It could be expensive, and it competes with big profit, it will be demonized. Published papers are being published because it has funding from big money. So you have 50 studies showing remdesivir works. Tapos saka pala natin makikita yung ivermectin because its patent has expired. And remdesivir is Gilead funded. Unfortunately, they're malas talaga nila. It doesn't work. So that's what I observe. Na we in the mainstream medical field don't know it, but the way we've been educated, the journals that we read, even the books, and even the professors that we listen to have in some way been affected by all these things. And we have to think out of the box now. We have to realize it. And may mga doctors naman who already been saying this sila, you need this, but they're not being listened to. But they're highly respected, and there are many of. You just really have to look for them. That's the problem. And many doctors just don't have the time or the effort to go beyond the guidelines.
Dr. Iggy, can I have a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Since you have, let's say, a medical association, a Philippine Medical Association, isn't it incumbent on a professional basis that even if you're against or for it, you should tell the government, you should put up a center wherein they can ask the physician about it. Otherwise, you're going to have people taking it. Maybe it's fake, maybe it's not. We don't know anymore, di ba? Isn't that incumbent as a medical institution? Whether you're for or against it, there should be you should at least agree on something.
Okay.
Okay, we don't agree on the uses of Mctin. But we do agree that we should advise the people
Yes, Raul, thank you. Okay, reaction, Dr. Iggy, please.
That's part of the things that I'm pushing for. Na sana may transparency. You know, I really like to sit down with experts, Albania, with Tony Dance, with these experts, because I know the questions to ask it. You know, unfortunately, yung mga newsmen natin, they're educated, but yung mga inside questions that they should know should be asked by other doctors. And we don't have that forum. I've never been invited to a forum where I can have an open discussion, which I see overseas. I've seen this in the UK where they have an open discussion with debating, and usually it's a gentlemanly debate because scholarly naman. But one of the problems is really yung conflicts of interest. That's why when I did my talk sa Congress, I started out with saying I've received sponsorships from this implant company, and I was sent to Europe. I was sent to Rome. I went to Bangkok. And people found that shocking. Sabi ko, no, it's not a shocking thing. We should say that because it really comes out that it's not just about knowledge. I think it's 99% integrity.
Okay, that's full disclosure, as you say. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, thank you. I just have another question here. Any existing pledges for funding the COVID-19 healing centers from specific sectors or groups? How many beds do you want to put up, Dr. Allen?
I'm looking into putting up firstly, the model hospital will be in Metro Manila, about 200 300 bed capacity. We still don't have any pledges or anything like that. We're just exploring. People will be supporting it. A lot of people are already supporting. We're looking into the technical, everything, the detailed things that we need, and firstly we are securing where's that hospital gonna be. Can be a resort, can be a retreat house or something which has which can house the 200 to 300 bed capacity. With regard to the funding, it may not be that difficult. We will get a lot of people. The rich people are really, now they're really wanting to help support, find solutions to the COVID-19.
Okay, thank you very much. We're pressed for time. Okay. Judy, do you have anything to say? Would you have some concerns? Judy Wasama? Judy? I saw you raising your hand before we say thank you to our guests. Wala yata. Okay. We'd like to acknowledge the President of the Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Henry Lim Bonleong, is also with us today. Okay. Well.
Hi, I'm Judy.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you for giving me the Yeah, I have a 72-year-old sister, and I belong to a family where I just had a niece who passed the board in medicine 2019. So she's very idealistic. So
Okay.
my sister, 72-year-old, she's very susceptible to coughs and cold. But during the pandemic, she hardly had any of these. But what I'm asking is, does the ivermectin keep us also from any of these things like the cough or the cold? Does it protect us from the family of the common cold?
Okay. Dr. Landrito, please.
There are no data on that. No? So although it has a long line of in the list of coverage for COVID for other viral infections, no. But the way I see it, since it's an immunomodulator, it has a potential for addressing other problems in terms of autoimmune disorders.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Yes?
Melo, can I have one last question?
Yes, Dr. Henry Lim Bonleong, welcome.
Yeah. I was with the Sulong Filipinas kanina. Maybe Dr. Landrito, kasi sinasabi na marami that you cannot take ivermectin 1 week or 2 weeks before your vaccine. Is that correct or what?
No, it doesn't.
Kasi I took ivermectin and then after 1 week, I had myself vaccinated. Kaya sabi lang nila, hindi daw pwede. It will, parang contra with each other. I do not know about that. Can you enlighten me on this one?
Yes. It will not interfere. It will not intervene with the vaccine. It will not weaken the vaccine. It will not go against it. It will not go or interfere against immune response, which is the main idea behind giving the vaccine is to promote an immune response. It will not. It will not have any effect at all. The reason why I'm recommending it should be taken, ivermectin should be a week before and a week after, so that if they give the vaccine, arises adverse reactions or side effects, they won't attribute it to ivermectin. They won't attribute to ivermectin. I just want to protect the prestige of ivermectin. Kasi that will happen eh. Baka sabihin lang, oh, tingnan mo, nagkaroon ng severe reaction is because of the ivermectin. Doon nila attribute. So I don't want that to happen. So sabi ko, you take it after na lang para hindi magka-problema. Pero there's no interference or no complications with the vaccine.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. Another thing was regarding the mRNA and also the inactive virus and the traditional one. What kind of vaccines is better for us at the moment? It should be the inactivated by or the one with mRNA. What vaccine will be more suitable? Do you think you recommend? As Pfizer and all of them are messenger RNA, and of course there are others which are using the traditional one and other ones using or. So out of the three kinds of vaccines, what do you recommend?
Yeah, actually, I'm not recommending anything. No, I go along with this is what Dr. Iggy mentioned earlier. My thinking goes like this. No, the natural course of a viral infection, any viral infection, or even some bacterial infections, you get infected, and then your immune system mounts a response. And what happens is either you succumb to the disease or you go overcome the disease and you develop a natural immunity to that. And so what I'm saying is if we take ivermectin, we may not get we will get the virus. It's not a question. It's in the air, it's airborne. It's just a matter of time. I've been telling that in my book. It's just a matter of time, everyone will get infected. And it's just a matter of inoculum. If we get a heavy inoculum, then we'll really get a COVID-19. But if you're taking ivermectin, it may be that the infection will be just mild or maybe not asymptomatic at all. No? It will be, the person will not experience any symptom at all. It can be, it's possible like that. In most cases, it's like that. But some people may have some symptoms, but this will be mild, or they may have the disease, but this can be overcome because they have ivermectin. That's how I am convinced with ivermectin. So what I'm saying is, that's why I mentioned, give every Filipino ivermectin. In 2 months' time, we cut our case by 90% and extend it for another 2 months. In 4 months' time, the pandemic is over. Because what will happen is we'll open everything, we'll open up the economy, everybody's taking ivermectin. We'll get the infection, but we will mount immune response. We will not get this because ivermectin is protecting us. And we will all have achieved herd immunity.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Hello.
Yes.
My last question lang from my classmate. If Dr. Landrido, I guess he's taking ivermectin. His question is, can you stop at any time, and will it affect your system, withdrawals or any side effects?
No, nothing like that. I don't see anything like that. If you're taking blue cheese for 10 years and stop taking blue cheese, will there be a withdrawal syndrome? No, I don't think there will be. The same way, it's a natural thing and it's not a natural product. I don't think there will be any problem. But when you take something maybe natural also like alcohol and you withdraw it, actually withdrawing with alcohol, you don't experience anything. If you're already abusing the alcohol, that's where withdrawal symptom sets in.
Okay.
Even in nicotine, in smoking. The problem lies when you already abused it and then you withdraw that. That's where the problem comes in.
We have a last question here from a senior citizen, Sol Yuyitung, a friend from Chinese Commercial News. I heard in some of Dr. Landrito's Zoom meetings, he mentioned about 80s or 90-year-old patients using ivermectin, and they become very active, talkative, and remember things. Can Dr. Landrito please expound on this effect on dementia from this wonder drug? Maybe Sol Yuyitung would like to send some to some politicians, no?
Yeah, actually, it was one of the audience who was relating that experience with their mother, who is already 95, I think. No? And she became active when she was taking the ivermectin, and then she was just following the usual every 2 weeks dose. So they were surprised with that. I'm also seeing other other reports, I'm hearing other reports from my Zoom, people not getting good sleep, and suddenly they're getting good sleep when they started taking everything. The mechanism of action, we still do not know how it works. We don't know. The critics will say it's placebo, but I don't think that it's really placebo. It's many are having those kinds of experience, so it's not placebo effect. No.
Okay.
We are yet to see why this is taking place. Maybe my thinking is maybe there is a hidden parasite somewhere, and the parasite keeps on giving toxins to the system. That's why people are having these problems, and then suddenly the parasites are eradicated, and people are going back to their health. No? Something like that. No, it may be another way. Maybe things. That's why this is really a wonder drug. It keeps on giving us a lot of fun, especially in COVID-19. We're seeing even severe patients are really overcoming COVID-19. Let me relate an experience. This happened in Canlubang. There's this rich man, 95-year-old. He's the patriarch of a rich family, and he got COVID, and he went severe. They brought him to the hospital, and then he said the family said, we don't want our dad to be intubated. We don't want remdesivir or anything like that. We just need supportive treatment from the hospital. And the hospital was not giving him any chance. The doctors were saying, we're not giving him 50-50 chance. We're giving him 0 chance. He has no chance and so anyway, well, to cut the story short, the relatives gave ivermectin, and soon enough the old man recovered, and now he's discharged. Okay. So that's how good ivermectin is.
Yeah.
Melo, one question, just is very important. I do not know if I get it right. Is there such thing as a cytokine storm or whatever that people died of that more than the COVID-19? I think that is something that something get haywire because of this immune system or whatever. Found on that one. But the cytokine storm ba yan, or what is that one? Because people died of that more than the virus itself.
Yeah, people are dying from COVID-19 due to two pathophysiologic pathways. The most common one is through the development of acute respiratory distress syndrome due to cytokine storm. Cytokine means overproduction of cytokines. These are inflammatory mediators that responds to overwhelming viral proliferations. And the second pathway is through hypercoagulative states, also called disseminated intravascular coagulant, wherein the blood of the patients are coagulating in that the circulation is becoming too compromised. No? And so in both cases, ivermectin has a mechanism of action to address these two pathophysiologic pathways. So people are really, with just one medicine, with just one drug, it prevents viral entry into the host cell, but prevents viral proliferation, it prevents cytokine storm, prevents hypercoagulation with just ivermectin. That's why this is really a wonder drug. And I think this will be the champion for COVID-19. And we want to see it more by putting up a hospital where we will be having a totally different protocol from what they've been doing. And I'm very hopeful, and I know we will be successful on this one.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much to all our friends in the audience, colleagues from the media who post questions to our guests. I'd like to say thank you to everyone, but maybe for his assignment, Dr. Alan Landrito can help us document the success stories and find out. Anecdotal accounts are good. However, if we come up with statistics, then probably it will be much better. I'd like to solicit your statements as we close our discussions today. Ray Pacheco Jr., please. Let's start. What's your message to our audience and to the media covering us? June? No, wala si June. Dr. Iggy. Yeah, June. Okay, go ahead. Yes, your message.
I'd just like to say that I met June Pacheco many years ago. He's a barkada of my barkada in high school at UPIS. And so good to see him here, looking young and healthy, like most of you in Aristocrat. And because I think it's your VCO. And you know what? A lot of people don't actually check. They should ask if the restaurant is using VCO or not. I give that as one of my tips when you choose a restaurant. Ask them what kind of oil they use. So I'm happy for Aristocrat that you use coconut oil.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Pacheco Jr., please go ahead.
Thank you for inviting me here. I just want to say that it's good that we have available tools that we can use against COVID-19, ivermectin, VCO, and other natural products like mga tawa-tawa and tropical. We're in the tropics, so there's tropical medicine. So I hope that moving forward that this can be an area of funding and research, that the Philippines, we are rich in natural medicine, so we can make it bloom, and then perhaps we can be this can be a source of an economy, of startups producing these products. So we're not just patients but also producers of natural medicine. So I guess Dr. Landrito and Dr. Iggy can play an important role in this advocacy. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So, Dr. Alan, your message before we go to the most senior member of the panel, Siri Ortiz Luis Jr. Dr. Alan, please.
Okay, we want to fully utilize the utility of the application of ivermectin in COVID-19. And we will do this with all the demands that the law is asking from us. We will do it legal. We will give patients ivermectin through compassionate special permit. So I hope, we are not going against law. We are in fact following it. We are law abiding. I hope when the DOH says they will support clinical trials, they will support if we initiate one. Then now we are initiating. Along with the application, we will do a trial with all the patients that we have. I hope they will keep their word and they will support us. They'll give us compassionate special permit. And so with that, we will have hopefully we'll have something to show that this is the way to handle COVID-19. Nobody should die from it. Everyone should be safe. And then we will have it ended as soon as possible. We'll have the prototype here in Metro Manila, then this will be followed by many other provinces. And then this problem will soon be over. And we will go with other things that we need to do in life. There are so many other things, no? And as has been mentioned, this is not really a very big virulent virus to conquer, no? Hindi ito yung hindi ito talagang as Person Marcit was portrayed before. No? We can conquer this. We should have our anxieties now turned low and turned down. And I have to say all my appreciation to all the people who are supporting this and who are all waiting and wanting to have the solutions arrived and done as soon as possible. So I have to thank you, all of you, for this privilege of having contributed my part.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us on board. Mr. Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr., please, for your message. I know you've been dealing with the government for such a long time. Do you find it really interesting to deal with the government now?
Well, actually, my wish really is once and for all, those who are responsible for trying to stop, to realize that they have a responsibility to the country and to the citizens. No? At the end of the day, if this is really a good preventive and cure for COVID, they can be sued eventually by people who were withheld to use it and die. And I think they should realize that and stop this. Even the president, they're giving him half truths. I'm sure if they tell the president the real story, the president will find a way to tell them to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this is just the first step. The more ideas, the better, because I've always believed in the saying, nobody has the monopoly of truth. There will always be time for discussion, and people who may not want dissent may not necessarily be giving due respect to the rights and opinions of others. So let Tapatan sa Aristocrat be that forum for us to exchange views and opinions. We will have more discussions. By the way, for Wednesday at the other forum, at the other side of town, at Wednesday Roundtable, we will talk about community pantries, poverty, and the impact of COVID-19 on labor. So thank you very much. I wish you the best of health. There are embassies who are or which are on lockdown because some of their staff have turned to be positive from COVID-19. So please take all necessary precautions and don't forget to pray. We're thankful to God. We're thankful to everyone who saw us through when our only son, JP, recovered from COVID-19. We know how hard it is when you try to clutch at straws, literally and figuratively. So stay safe. Thank you very much. God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.